Okay, I will switch over to English for our panel. Jesper was talking about how Expert Music Sweden works all over the world, but now we are focusing today on one specific country that's interesting for many genres, but for musicians within metal extremely. And on with me on stage today, I have a panel of experts and professionals here to answer your every little detailed question about how to break through in the German metal market. How does that sound? Good. How many of you guys, I know Jeppe asked you, but I was in the back so I couldn't see. How many of you guys play in bands? And how many of you guys want to break through in Germany? Okay, perfect. You are in the right place. Okay, my name is Ika Johannesson, and on stage with me here, I have, to begin with, Tiffany Cantegrel, yes. Who is head of label marketing at Nuclear Blast Records. And we have Markus Grassek, which is label manager at Metal Blade Records. And then Merle Doering, agent and managing director at Catch 22, which is a management and booking company. And at the end, Chris Jagger, head of Summer Breeze Festival in southern Germany.
Head of booking.
In summer Germany. Very welcome. Okay, so I just spent the weekend at Muskelrock Festival, where a large percentage of the visitors are German metalheads, which is a testament to the very strong and old connection between Sweden and Germany as metal countries. Why is this connection so strong, do you think?
Because you have so many good bands.
But why
Just
is
break
that,
it down.
Chris?
You know, in Germany, we love to listen to Scandinavian metal as much as to American metal, even more, I would say.
Even more, I mean, because it's closer. I mean, I guess in the beginning, a lot of Swedish extreme bands were probably inspired by like Destruction Creator, like the early thrash metal scene in Germany, and then they made their own thing out of it, and apparently Germans loved it as well, and we still do. So yeah, and it's of course, I mean, easier for a Swedish band like to travel down to Germany, vice versa, than maybe for an American band.
Yeah, I think it's both the proximity and also the cultural difference is not that big between the countries, and I think also the climate and obviously the weather and kind of the mood and mentality that comes with it. It's not too different between the two countries, which is probably why the music is both ways is very accessible for the other country.
And I would add that in general, Germany over-index for metal. German listeners over-index in metal as a genre preference versus the other genres. Even though I would say that the younger generations in Germany tend to under-index. So basically, over 25 years old, 20% of the German population, 19%, say that metal is their preferred genre. But then below 24, it goes down to 13%. So that's also a challenge, I would say, for our scene to rejuvenate.
Oh, well, that's interesting. We'll return to that question. But to begin with, how would you describe the metal scene in Germany right now? Is it faring well? How is it going?
I think the scene is faring well, but I also think that it's very competitive and perhaps a little oversaturated, or maybe very oversaturated. I think especially since COVID, touring has become so active, and there's been so many shows. There is so many shows all the time everywhere, and there's so many bands coming up, and also because obviously not just in Germany but everywhere, it's so easy nowadays to make a band and put the music online and do something, which is a great thing on the one hand because everyone can do it. But also on the other hand, it's very negative because everyone can do it. So it's, you have to, there's an oversaturation. So you have to kind of sift through a lot of the masses to find the good stuff.
Yeah, agreed. And I mean, that also goes for festivals. I mean, in the summer you can go to you have to make choice between 2, 3, 4 different festivals happening on the same weekend, almost catering to the same audience. Same goes for shows. Same goes for bands. Yeah, like Merle said, it's just like an oversaturation at this point. Yeah.
But then it seems, I mean, if you would describe the scene in, do people come to the shows? Is there still an interest? Do records sell? How is the streaming? How is the interest?
I think there is a lot of interest. People do come to the shows a lot. They sell, they buy an insane amount of merch. Generally, I think that's probably kind of the narrative or the mood everywhere at the moment. It's like, oh, you know, costs are rising everywhere and you have so little money. I cannot confirm that from looking at just what my bands are making merchandise-wise on the road. People are buying merchandise like crazy. I think it's also, you know, this beautiful and terrible thing of social media. People want to have the Instagrammable experience. They want to go to the show. They want to be able to show their friends that they're going to a show. So I think that also, caters to it. So there is a lot of interest, and people are going to shows. But obviously, you can only be at a certain place at once. So if there are several shows per day or per week, you have to choose. And even though, like I said, people buy a lot of merchandise, you still have to. You can definitely see that they pick with their credit card. So they, you know, they can't go to every show. Financially impossible. But I think there's a lot of interest to go to shows, to make new music, to make new bands. So I think it's shifting a lot in terms of how it manifests, but there is a lot of interest.
Yeah, and also how people consume music. Obviously, I mean, in Germany, we were always like the stronghold for the physical market, but we can definitely feel, especially in the last 2 years, due to the fact that people just have less money, and at the same time, the price for, especially for vinyl, just goes. Well, it's definitely at the point that's too expensive for most of the people. I mean, we're talking about a very dedicated fan base or dedicated people that don't buy whatever their 2-3 vinyl per year as maybe a more mainstream audience. We're talking about people that buy 4, 5, 6, 10 vinyl per month, and they just don't have the money for it anymore. I mean, vinyl price almost doubled for at least some bands, or depending on if you're on a major, buying something that's on a major label or more underground. I mean, differs, but yeah.
Yeah, and to add to that, I think that from what I've read in terms of studies and so on, Germany is still a late market in terms of digital and streaming adoption, which is great in a way because it means that there is even more potential in the future that streaming will develop even more. And when you ask people who don't stream yet if they will be likely or very likely to try streaming in the next 2 years, I think it's a third that say that they are likely to. So there's really more potential for digital, even if for metal and we still have a high share of traditional consumption. But as you said, we can't expect the fans to spend on everything. So I think we have to position ourselves, especially as bands or labels, like what can we bring to the scene, and not only what can we get from the scene in terms of live, in terms of merch, in terms of physical, digital.
Yeah, and I mean, what you said, like, some people want to have their Instagram moment. So I think it also is more attractive to maybe a younger audience if more than just a band is on stage. So if you have a production, if you have like something more visual, I mean, and it was always like that. Even if you look back in the early days of metal, like, or the bands that are still successful always had like a visual component to it, and it was always important. But I think even more it is now. If you're spending your hard-earned money on a ticket, you want something in return. So.
I would definitely agree, and I think I can see this shift very much also in communication with promoters, because it's less and less the question of, oh, will the band have a new album out by then? But a lot of times there's the question of, will there be a new show? So are you bringing a new production? Because the fans have seen the production before. They don't necessarily, I mean, I guess we all know that also from ourselves. There's especially with bands that have a big back catalog, you want to hear certain songs, so you don't necessarily need the new album. But the fans still want to see a new show. They might still be okay with the same songs being played, but they want more than that. They want a show rather than just the band being on stage and playing the music. They expect way more than that, and I think that's kind of probably a homemade problem for the industry, for the touring industry at least, because bands have kind of upped their game by themselves, getting inspired by bands that are on like a mega level, but things have become way more accessible in terms of production, and you know, everyone can kind of make their own. Like I can see that with very new bands, there's so many ideas to bring production and props and everything at such an early stage, and you can just order it off the internet relatively cheaply and freely accessible. So I think that's kind of a homemade problem by the industry, and you know, hate it or love it, it's just something that's gonna keep going.
But
that's one advice I would give to the bands as well. I mean, we can see it at our festival, even small bands, as long as they're wearing masks or something like that, some visuals, it helps them. They get the fans, you know. It's not too much about the music anymore. It's all about image and production.
It's also about the music.
It's also about the music.
But we have, like, I would say, kind of a mainstream festival with a lot of young bands and young audience. So most of our fans, they love seeing something going on stage, not just a typical old school heavy metal show with like, let's say, Cannibal Corpse or whatever. I love Cannibal Corpse, don't get me wrong, but kids want more nowadays.
And also, I mean, because you said it's easier to order online, but also it can be little things, and some things you can just like do on your own. I mean, all of those. I mean, we were just at the great exhibition. We were also just talking about. You can see like some of the stage props, not the big ones, but you know, like Niflheim or Hellbutcher. Like he's doing a lot of that stuff on his own. He's like sitting in his garage and just like doing that stuff. So that's also something.
Remember when Midnight played Rock Hard Festival?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
The guy went on stage, first song, he first smashed his guitar. Everybody was like, what the fuck? And then they started the show. Yeah. Everybody was talking about that special moment at the beginning of the show. Just smash a guitar.
Might become a bit of a
burden.
financial burden.
Yeah, but it was really like everybody was like, wow, did you see that?
Yeah.
I do think we shouldn't like over stress that point though, because it
was cool.
Yeah, no, I don't mean that specifically. But just last weekend we went to a show with a band that was like, they had put a lot of thought into their costumes and into the show element of their show, but the music itself was good, but it was not played very well. So if you don't play your music very well, or if the movement on stage, or like the show, not the show aspect around it, but the show itself is not good, then the props and the smashing the guitars and everything is not going to help you get very far. So I think that it shouldn't be, like, we shouldn't stress that too much. It's like, this is the main selling point. And also I think it's very important, does it fit the music? Like, don't come up with wearing masks or smashing guitars or anything if then afterwards you play something that has nothing to do, or where it just doesn't fit your style of music or something.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was, I mean, it's good that you're stressing it, but that's always the foundation for me. Music is the first thing. Like,
and it has to be played well.
It has to be played well. You have to write good songs, and then you can think about all the rest.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a good example of, like, it doesn't have to be so elaborate. You don't have to have inflatables or like a huge stage prop. It can be. I mean, and also Midnight, like at the same show, I think he just like spray painted the backdrop like 5 minutes before going on stage. It wasn't very beautiful, but it was something like everyone was just staring at it. It's like, what's going on here?
So it can be easily achieved, this effect.
I do think it has to fit the music, though. Like with Midnight, that's cool. But if you're in, I don't know, like a very elaborate fantasy power metal band, then you know,
probably not. Yeah.
Power like spray painting the backdrop just before the show is probably not going to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get right to the core of how. You know, there's probably loads of people sitting here and now talking about hearing you talk about the oversaturated market, so many bands, but how to break through that saturation. Well, wearing masks, obviously, and playing well. Yes, noted. But I'd like to ask each of you, within your respective fields, how you choose and find the bands to work with, to sign, or to market, or to book, and to work with. Can you start, Chris, by saying how do you find new bands for Summer Breeze Festival?
New bands, we have a really good network. Like my colleague, he also plays in a band, and so he's connected to the underground very well. I used to as well, but now it's too much other stuff going on. And we pick a lot of bands when we're visiting showcases and small shows. So the live show is still a very important aspect. Of course, we check the numbers, but depending on the size of the band, I don't care if they have only 50 listeners in Germany. If they are good, I book them.
What numbers do you check? Which are most important to you?
Spotify, Instagram, all these numbers. There's there's some apps that combine all social medias all together, and so. But I don't look too much on it. It's all my colleague who's young, and he has the numbers in the head. He knows. Okay, this is like this size. But if I like a band, no matter, I will book them.
Okay, and which showcases do you usually go to?
I was Copenhagen over Bülam,
Viva Sounds.
Viva Sounds in Gothenburg.
WTF.
WTF now in Helsinki. What else? There was one in Aarhus like last winter. I booked 3 bands for this year, 1 band for next year, out of 8 bands, and I could have booked all the bands because the quality was so good. I didn't expect anything, but all the bands blew me away.
Oh.
All kinds of genres.
Is everyone here? Does everyone here know what a showcase is? Well, I'll explain just in case.
Well, it's like some key people, I would say, are invited, and you have young and up-and-coming bands playing some shows.
I mean, you guys did it last year. Unfortunately, I couldn't come, but you did the Sweden Rock Rising thing here
Yeah.
Yes.
in Stockholm. So maybe some of you were there. So that's like, yeah, they have like someone selects a certain amount of bands. It's like more like a business event. Yeah, some key
The
people
export
are-
offices play a big role in this. They invite people like me or like agents and labels to check out new bands, and that's what we do.
But so, do you have any example of Swedish bands that you've booked after visiting a showcase? Please say one at least.
I'm pretty sure I did.
Kven.
Yeah, right, Quen.
And
for
I mean, so that's a perfect example.
no,
You-
that's not true. I listened to them and
you
then I
before.
booked them.
Then you booked them, but
Yeah.
but you then like emailed us, and we were just like, oh yeah, that's fucking amazing. So that was like the
Yeah.
best case scenario. It's just
This is also something like, I mean, you talk to other people, to the labels and to agents. We are all one scene, so if I discover something cool, I send it to Bart. Bart, have you heard about this band? No matter what kind of music. Sometimes I send him black metal, sometimes something else, you know. And then he, of course, he's pretty much underground. I know it since years, blah, blah. But yeah, that's how it works, and how it worked back then as well. You know, word of mouth, which is very important.
But what does a band have to get you interested?
Masks.
No, no, definitely not. I don't know, something special. Good songs, good stage acting. I don't know. It's difficult. I mean, like the Aarhus, there was this black metal band. I didn't expect anything, and they just blew me away with their songs. You know, they had a typical black metal stage acting, but the songs were so good. So I had to book them. Or Baez, the Danish band. We saw them at Eurosonic, and I walked into the venue, and they started playing the first song. And within the first song, I went to the agent and said, I need this fucking band. Because they were so, the energy level on stage was so amazing. I had to book them. I really had to. Okay, I was drunk. but no, and they did really well, and they're coming back this year. So yeah, a good live performance.
And Merle, how about you? How do you find bands to work with?
Well, I would also like what Jagger says. You talk to each other about stuff, especially with labels. Every now and then, Bart and I talk a lot about bands because sometimes, I mean, it makes it so much easier if a band doesn't have a label yet, and I'm talking to them. It makes it easier for me if they have a label, and the same for Bart before he signs a band. It makes it so much easier. If he also has an agent on board. And I also talk with people like Jagger saying, hey, would this be something that you would book for your festival? Because checking kind of, do I have the right market for the band before you sign them? That, of course, helps. But generally, yeah, talking to people and then actually Spotify suggestions. I really like the release radar or suggestions for. So just the randomness of it based on what I like to listen to, and then also bands email me. That's
Do you read all the emails and listen to all the demos?
Not all the emails. I would like to, for sure. I do try to do that, and I don't throw them away. So they go into this folder, and if I have to, if I have a moment when the email comes in, then yeah, sure, I'll give it a listen. But sometimes there's just not, I'm busy with something else, so I just put it in this folder. And maybe if I have a moment where I'm, where you just need a break or something, and then you go to this folder and check, or I need a specific opening band for a certain tour or something, and then I check through that folder. I do glance through all the emails. That's one recommendation I would definitely give to bands that are reaching out to anyone in the industry. Have in mind that those people are incredibly busy. Keep it short, especially your band history. Like, nobody needs to know how many bassists you had over the past 3 years or something. So just keep it short and keep it very focused on what's important. So send your links, make sure that they go to the right pages. Make sure that I personally really like it when bands send videos, because it gives me an idea also of their stage presence. Obviously, it's very different from seeing them actually live. But even if it's a recorded video, not of a live performance, but an actual video of for a song, it already helps kind of gauging how do they interact and could this work live. So video links, I think, for me are much more important than listening to the Spotify link, for example. But then again, I also work, like I'm focused on the live industry, so that has a much bigger weight for me. So yeah, keep it short, send all the necessary information right away. Be friendly in your email, because like personally, I don't like working with people who, it's, for me, that's a deal breaker. If someone's a dick, or if you're entitled or arrogant or whatever in your email, I will probably just categorically, it doesn't matter what it musically is, I would just turn it down. And make sure you address it to the right person.
And address it to the right company.
That too, yes. So if I, every now and then you get an email, I don't know, there's, my agency's called Catch-22. There's another one called Decibel Touring, and when they email me and say, we really think we will be a great fit for the roster of Decibel Touring, it's like, well, how about you email Decibel Touring then? So, just make sure that you take the time, and also make sure you actually, I personally think it's much nicer to receive an email that is actually addressed to me, rather than me seeing they send it to a bunch of people and I'm just in BCC. So, if you don't take the time and make the effort to actually research and address me personally, why should I take my time to listen to your music? So I think those are some key elements of when you approach people on email. And I think it's very common in the industry that people still listen to band suggestions that reach them directly.
What about you, Bart? How
Yeah,
do you
absolutely.
find bands?
We definitely also get a lot of emails or applications from bands, and we try to listen to everything and try to get back to everyone. Sometimes it takes a little longer depending on our overall schedule and the workload. But usually it's word to mouth is still like the most important factor. I mean, to be honest, we've rarely signed any band that just send us a random email, because we're still fans. We're pretty involved with the music scene and with the with the especially genres we like, of course, but we have like a very diverse musical taste within our offices. So usually, or in advice, I totally agree with all of what you guys just said. The other thing is build your own network. Like find your local scene. Like try and work in your local scene. Help setting up your own shows. Help setting up other band shows. I don't know. Like make yourself relevant within the scene, and I'm sure someone will see it and then go to people like Jagger or Merle or me or Tiffany or whatever, and it's like, hey, like we discovered that band. But if you're just like sitting there and waiting if that someone discovers you, it's probably not gonna work.
But in the example of Kven, for example, which are signed to Metal, right? How did that work? How did that come about?
So again, like the foundation is always music. Like, so listen to the songs first, and it's like, hey, is it great music? Yeah, okay, check, cool. Okay, I didn't see live personally, or my colleague didn't. All right, ask people like how were their live. Check live footage on YouTube. See like if you then go on YouTube and you don't see any shows, not even like fan film stuff, then it might be probably like too early for us, at least, to get involved with a band. But it's like, okay, so music, great. Saw some amazing live footage, like people we trust, or like we trust in their musical taste and expertise. Said, hey, band is great. Then talking to the band, it's like, hey, he's also a great guy, and yeah, that's how it worked.
But it still kind of feels like you all talk to each other. There's a lot of gatekeepers that you kind of need to... I would imagine, listening to you describing this now, that it would feel kind of hard to, since everyone talks to each other. And
I mean...
Would you say that makes it harder or easier?
Well, I mean, we're talking on a... not sounding arrogant, but we're talking on a certain level of professionalism. So it doesn't mean, so maybe it's not the best choice to release your first album with Metal Blade or with Nuclear Blast, because some small label could do maybe a better job, has like a better focus, and then you will automatically get, if they do a good job. It's not like only we listen to people that are telling us, but we are of course like checking reviews. Like every Friday, I'm just browsing through Bandcamp and look what's new on there and just listen to bands. I mean, that can also happen. There's no gatekeeping involved, but again, due to the just vast amount of bands that are releasing like new music every day or every week, it's just getting harder and harder. So sometimes you're just, and with just a limited amount of time, it's of course easier if you hear from someone you trust. Hey, this is a cool band, check it out.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't look at it so much as gatekeeping anymore, because if it's a good band and if the audience likes it, nowadays gatekeeping, I don't think it really works anymore, because if it's good, you can get your music out there and you can play shows, and so it's more of a gate opening kind of thing. If you have someone in the music industry who is vouching for you, or who's making that connection for you, or it could even just be, if you write an email and say, hey, this and that person said in another band maybe said that I should contact you. Of course, that makes me listen up, because, obviously I would hope that people who work with me or people who know me would only send someone my way if they have reached a certain professional level. For me, it's a bit different than for labels. I like to get in on the very ground. I really like working with bands that have very little experience. I have some bands that I worked with since they played their third show ever. So I really like. I also work with bands that are unsigned and only releasing their own music themselves, because for me it doesn't really. Of course, the online numbers they matter, but they're not necessarily representative of what happens live. So depending on what genre you move in, if you move in like the metalcore genre, for example, then yes, you should definitely happen online. If you're more in the old school heavy metal space, the chances that your numbers online are really good and you I don't know, have a very lively TikTok channel is very, very low, and is probably also not representative of who would show up to your show or how many people would show up to your show. So I think it's not so much gatekeeping, it's just someone, if you have someone in the metal industry opening that gate for you, that definitely helps.
Yeah. Of
but
course.
I don't think it's as it used to be back in the days that you can, if someone reaches out to me and I'm like, I don't want this band to succeed, or I think they're shit. They'll reach out to 5 other people because it's also everybody's so easily connected. You find everybody's email address on the internet. So I don't think there's really that problem anymore. But it definitely helps if you have connections in the business.
It helps. What I meant, like, if we didn't sign, like, recently or last year's bands that send emails to us, it's probably just because the bands are at a level that is not yet like professional enough, or we maybe you just haven't done enough, because otherwise we would have heard of you already. But it doesn't mean, like, I mean, we also work and signed a lot of bands from the start. It's just meant it's not always. Don't be encouraged if it doesn't work with the first album.
And Tiffany, how do you find new bands, and how do you
So
work at Nuclear Blast?
I mean, in my case, since I'm in charge of marketing and services, I come in a second step. So in general, the A&Rs already come to me with either ideas of signing or already signings. Just one point that is not about marketing, but that is about signing. I don't know if you know, but in the Nuclear Blast group, there is a distribution structure called Blood Blast, and so it's not the Nuclear Blast label, but it's distributing the music specifically for metal, and that's also an opportunity to then upsell at a later stage to Nuclear Blast. We just upsold one band in Germany called the Narrator a few weeks ago, so that's something to check as well. Blood Blast, depending on your level at the moment. And yeah, then on my side, what's very important when starting working with the band from a marketing perspective is the storytelling, the consistency. For example, when you talked about Midnight, what is your general vision of your band, musically, visually, the experience, the relationship with the fans? So what is your overall vision? And storytelling, super important. Your goals and objectives. Where do you want to go? What do you want to focus on? And that's really, to me, a collaborative work. And it's never the same case for all the bands. It's really a tailor-made and a case-by-case strategy, and that we sit down with the band and we say, okay, what are the objectives? What's the storytelling? What are the ways to grow? Social media, but I think we will talk about it more in details, is quite strategic as well. And I would say the collaborative spirit, it really makes a difference when there is trust from the beginning between the teams, the label teams, and the band and management teams, because when you trust each other and when you're collaborative and there is possibility to debate, to learn from each other, that's really cool, and that's where we make a lot of progress. So that's the main things I would say matter when I start working with the band.
In general, in Germany right now, what kind of, or is it possible to describe, are there any trends within the metal market right now? Can you describe a little bit how that works? Well, Tiffany is nodding here.
Yes. Yeah, and I think there are lots of cliches that are not true. So actually, one very important thing is that metalheads over-index on social media versus all music consumers. And I don't think we have that in mind, but metalheads spend more time on social media than others on a weekly basis. And TikTok as well. So yeah, it's something very important to consider. And YouTube particularly super important for discovery and for weekly usage. 72% of metalheads in Germany use YouTube daily. So this is a place to reach people.
Okay, good. Are there any trends like genre-wise right now in Germany? Is there any special interest in like a certain sub-genre that you see growing?
Metalcore is doing really well at the moment.
Deathcore.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't say that's only in the case
Yeah,
in Germany. It's just like a more of a global kind of thing.
Yeah, I
But
don't think there's any specific German trend
No.
versus other countries. I think it's pretty much what's going on probably also in Sweden at this time.
That changed a lot over the years. I mean, I remember the 90s, 2000s, when, especially in England, new metal was really big. Germany was way more conservative, you know. And many trends and many bands that were big in America and in England never got that status in Germany. So this is there's now a second wave of this new metal thing coming back. Like the old bands, they're now really hyped in Germany. Like a band like Korn, for example, play way bigger venues than they did back then. It's really crazy. But I guess this also goes for the rest of Europe. But in Germany, we have always been very conservative, but with the young audience coming in, like metalcore, and we're way more open than in the past.
Yeah, I think that's like a general thing as well. That just the younger audience has less boundaries than we had when we grew up, both in our musical taste and in what's perceived as cool or not. I guess that also has to do with availability of music, and it's never been easier to discover music and to listen to music, no matter if you have the money or not. And I guess like that, and just the general upbringing of like the younger demographic makes them having less boundaries in their head than we had. So that's also the reason why I guess like musical genres, of course, like if you're like an old school death metal band, it's more important to you like the genre itself than when you're just like a band that's mixing different genres, and you can see like you're getting away with way more mixing different genres together than it used to be.
Yeah, I would definitely agree, and I think one of the reasons is probably also because artists have become more open-minded. Collaborations across genres are so much more, like even across not just metal genres, but you know, Spirit Box collaborating with Megan Thee Stallion, for example, like just going across these borders. Or I don't know, a Finnish thrash band a couple of years ago said in an interview that they get inspired by Billie Eilish. You know, that's I don't know, that's not something that back in the days was happening, which I think on the one hand definitely had to do with mentality, and nowadays probably the shift. I feel like the younger generations are much more open generally, like be it with music, or they're trying to be more positive, like be it, you know, just giving people space to be who they are, and being more accepting of it, which I think also reflects in the music. And I just recently saw a little video that referred to a study where it said that Gen Alpha is not ageism about their music. So they will discover the old music as if it's new music, which it is to them, but it's not something like, oh, my grandparents used to listen to that, or my parents, so I'm not going to listen to it. They'll give it just as much of a chance as they will new music. And I think one of the reasons that has happened musically is probably Spotify, and the fact that you don't have to commit to a whole album. So, and you don't have to pay, for example, you can just go on Spotify and you listen to one song of Billie Eilish. You don't have to financially commit to it before you can actually check it out. So I think that's one of the reasons that you can like kind of pick and mix what you want to do song by song, and you don't have to, you know, go for the financial risk. We were talking about it last night, like buying albums just by cover artwork. So you can give it a listen before you actually commit, and you can also just commit to one song or one album or something. So I think that's a it's a curse and a beautiful thing that the music industry has nowadays.
But tied to that, that's actually a shift of user behavior, that they are not connected to artists, or less connected to artists, but connected to tracks. And that when you ask people what is the first action they do after discovering a track, especially on social media, the younger people will just play the track on repeat, and older ones will go and check other tracks from the artist. But that means that it becomes even more difficult to create a connection with the artist, because otherwise they will just play on repeat and adding on their own tracks, play on repeat the track, but not going further into the relationship with the artist. So you have to offer more than the tracks right away, hence the importance of storytelling, because the behavior tends to be more track related than artist related now.
That must be a great challenge when working with marketing.
Yes, that's why the importance of the fan relationship, because that's the key thing here. Like, how do you make sure that you offer a connection deeper than just one track, and the importance of the scenes, really. And that's why also I think that platforms like Discord and so on develop even more, because this is where you have real communities beyond the oversaturation of the classic social media. Yeah.
I think sorry. I can definitely see when I look at one of the bands that I work with. It's a German metalcore band called Our Promise. They have completely changed their strategy from releasing albums. They only release singles. So because people's attention span is so much shorter nowadays, they just committed to, I don't remember what the exact timeline was, but it was like every 3 months we release a new single, and then for the following 3 months it will be just about this song, and we will, connect the people to this track, but also we will make them want to have a new track that they can then connect to. So they will release the track, and then there will be behind the scenes from the video. There's a video for every single song they release. They release behind the scenes footage. They explain the lyrics. They really bind the fans to that one track, but also to them, which then translates over into the next track. And then eventually, when they had, I don't remember, when they had 12 songs over several years, they actually combined those into an album. But their focus was definitely to this shift of new user experience. And I thought that was really interesting. It makes touring very difficult as well, because you don't have this traditional, oh, that's when your album is out. Okay, so that's when we start the touring cycle. You have to be a bit more creative with that, which I think is also, it's great. I think usually change is a very good thing. So we have to just come up with new stuff and, not just repeat the same thing over and over again.
But doesn't this depend on the kind of music you play? I mean, I still have hope that death metal bands release albums and not only singles.
But they did release it as an album once they had all the singles released.
3 years or something.
Yeah.
No,
so
but
would your attention span not last the 3 years to get the full album?
I think
I'm
we are
old.
sitting here at the end wishing that it was just as it was before. We created albums as art.
But there
because it's so
definitely
commercial.
no, but there definitely is. And I mean, it's just been, we have this conversation every now and then, because the age difference and just what you would like. I think it's a great chance. Like, of course, it's, it has its downsides, but it's also a great chance for bands, because you don't have to write a whole album first before you can put your music out. And you also can experiment with stuff and can see, this track really worked very well, so we can actually go further down that line, rather than working for, I don't know, some bands. If I look at one band that I work with, they have an album cycle that takes like 7, 8, 9 years. So if you work that long on an album, and you may be risking a little bit with the sound because you're experimenting with something, like, that's your album for the next 7, 8, 9 years. If it's shit and it's not performing well, then you're stuck with that. Whereas if you can, and you also have the problem of some bands, they just have to write like filler songs because they have to, come over that threshold of the, I don't know, what is it, 45 minutes or something for an album. So, you don't have that problem anymore. So whereas I agree, I personally like listening to albums as well, especially if it's concept music. But it's not all bad. The change.
No.
No, it's
I think
not
it has
all bad.
chances as well.
But I would agree, it's not the same for every genre, and I think some genres, like with a more traditional fan
that's
base,
what I said earlier as well.
value like a full album more than maybe another genre. But then what he said is true. Like you have more shots and also like getting visibility. And also, I mean, in this day and age, when we talk about streaming services and pitching my music and getting into playlists, when your album is out, then it's done. It's old music. Like it's nothing you can pitch, but you can have like at least like a shot with every single you're doing, especially in the beginning. If you're new and finding your audience, probably no one is waiting for an album from you. But you have like you have some shots in reaching new people when you release like another single before you actually do a full album. And I mean, sure, it all is different now, but I mean, in the past, whatever, like a band like Iron Maiden, before they released like the first album, whatever, they played like 5 years songs from the first 2 albums and try and see what's working with our audience and playing every weekend. That's something none of you can do anymore because it's different times. But at least you can try and see what kind of works and what people are reactive to. Still, I mean, it has to come from within, or it should come from within. It should be real. So if you're not behind it, then
But I don't think. I mean, I would definitely agree. It varies from genre to genre, which it then just goes to reflect know your audience. You have to understand who you're trying to reach. If you're trying to reach an old school metalhead and you're just every 3 months you're releasing a single. And releasing like behind the scenes or whatever, that might not be the audience to engage with that kind of stuff. So of course it doesn't work for everyone, but that's how things are shifting a little bit. And I think it's also a good thing in terms of the competition. Like for example, working with bands over the last, 15 years, if you then talk to labels about like, yeah, we want to release our album and that time. And then there might be the chance that there's a band that has a higher priority releasing at the same time. So your band might actually kind of not necessarily fall through the cracks, but might be a lower priority, or you're forced to move your album release to another point in time, which might not strategically be as good for you because there is a higher priority release. And then you only have this one chance. And then, it takes you another 2-3 years before you have that other chance. Also in terms of, it's not that relevant in my opinion, but entering the charts anywhere, that's not just within your label mates or within the metal genre. It's also, if you're releasing in the same week as, Taylor Swift, then or the following weeks after Taylor Swift, you have zero chance of getting there. So I think having several smaller shots is a good thing, but definitely know your audience and know whether they are receptive to that kind of stuff. And I think with a concept album, for example, it's much harder than if you're to like transport the full feeling. So also know what you're selling.
Okay, so down to some concrete advice. First, on the live scene, because you have all accentuated the fact of seeing bands live. How does a band get to tour in Germany? Where do they start? What are the best advice for you? Like how would you, as a band from Sweden, maybe sitting in the audience, how can we get to tour in Germany? And what should they...
Go to Jesper and ask for money.
I think, as cynical as that might sound, be aware that it costs a lot of money to start a band from the ground nowadays. Have that money ready, have a plan for what it means in terms of time like if you have it, you likely have a day job, so have a plan for that. And then I would say, from an agency point of view, find agencies that work with bands who are similar, or where you think your audience is. So if you're in a death metal band, you want to find agents that work with death metal bands, and then check the tour dates and email those agents frequently, not all the time, because then you get on the very annoying list, and that's not good either. But check in every now and then. If you, I can see, Cannibal Corpse are going on tour, there's no opener announced. If there's any chance, or also local, I think that's a bit difficult if you come from Sweden and you see, during the summer, American bands, they have to play these filler shows to fill up their schedule. If you see that there's a show in whatever, Hamburg, I guess, would be the closest option. If you see that there's a show in Hamburg, there's no opener announced, and you're happy to travel to Hamburg to open for that show, that's a really good way in. But generally, I think find out where the bands are that you musically see yourself with, and then try to get into that space.
And put away your egos. I find it really strange when I book small bands, underground bands, to our smaller stage, and let's say we have 3 bands from Norway. I try to put them on the same day, so if they come down from Norway or Sweden or whatever, they can do some shows together on the way up and down. Nothing happens. I connect them. I tell them, hey, talk to your export office. They know the other band is also playing, blah blah blah. In all the years, nothing really happened, and I don't get it, because both or all 3 bands could benefit.
But I do think that's a bit difficult. I mean, having been in that position to bring down my newcomer bands from Norway or Sweden to play Summer Breeze, it's the summer. Nobody really wants to do club shows, and it's during the week. Getting summer shows during the week for newcomer bands that sometimes have never played Germany before, or on the way, Sweden or Denmark.
It's
It's
always
close to
bars.
not always.
No, but I guess in general, it's still like an okay advice to give to, and that's what I meant when I said, like, don't wait for someone. I mean, you also have to be proactive.
Yeah.
I mean,
100%,
connect within your scene, connect with bands in the territories you want to play with, and ideally you're a fan of that music that you're playing, and so you probably have so many bands you like in the same niche and genre you're playing. Try and connect with those bands. I mean, that's how it worked in the past. I mean, you don't have to send like snail mail letters anymore, but hey, hit up bands in Germany that are close to you, and it's like, hey, we would love to come. I mean, it shouldn't be the first question probably, but I mean, you know how to talk to people. Hopefully. But then it's like, hey, I would love to come to Germany with my band. Like, can you help us set up some gigs, and vice versa? We're gonna help you, like, come to Gothenburg, Stockholm, whatever, and play some shows there. Yeah. Also, you have to have prepare to sit in your van a lot, prepare to spend money, but if you really want to do it, don't wait for anyone. Just do it.
I think I would also like to add to this, like, reaching out to bands. If you want to get on a tour, not just single shows, I think reaching out to the headline bands, nowadays it's easier than ever. And chances are, I mean, me as the agent, I don't always, I get to make suggestions, and with a lot of bands, I also obviously get to weigh in. But if you reach, I don't know, let's stay with Cannibal Corpse. If you reach Corpse Grinder and he really loves your band, and you, but
reach Alex Webster, not Corpse Grinder.
Well, yeah, okay, fair. But if you reach out to the band that you want to tour with, and they want you on the tour with you, with them, then that's a pretty good shot for you to get on it, rather than convincing the agent. Obviously, the agent can help, or the management company. But I think nowadays with social media, if you slide into someone's DMs, that might make something happen. Whereas, with snail mail, you didn't actually have that opportunity.
And just to add to that question, you can also start creating an audience in the country or in the cities where you would aim to play by putting budget behind, I don't know, your music video or Spotify showcase or whatever. You can also try to build that audience, so when you go there are already people waiting for you.
Like building it through social media.
100%. I mean, yeah. Look in your social media stats, Spotify stats, like if you have your music on Bandcamp, like where are people ordering from, and really narrow it down to like the major cities. You don't necessarily have to like spend a lot of budget on like smaller cities on the countryside or whatever, but hey, I want to hit those major markets in Germany, then you should probably rather target Hamburg, Berlin, Munich, Stuttgart, whatever, and see if you have like, if there are certain cities that you already have an audience in just by your streaming stats or by your social media stats. Yeah.
And also hit up smaller festivals. I mean, of course, everybody wants to, or every band wants streaming of playing Wacken. But as we said before, there's a shitload of festivals in Germany. It's from like 1,000 capacity to 70,000. It's crazy. So and we as the bigger ones, we also watch what the smaller ones are booking and because they're building our future headliners. That's what we hope, and we try to do so as well if we have because we have some small stages. But that's another thing. Reach out, lots of these festivals are made by real fans, dedicated fans. They want to support the scene. That's why they're doing it. That's why they do those festivals. Reach out to those.
Yeah.
But which brings us to the last subject, the subject of social media and advice in that area. Before opening up from questions from the audience, because I'm guessing you have all been very open and generous with advice, but I'm guessing maybe you have some sort of questions. But I mean, it's fairly obvious to everyone that breaking a band anywhere without social media is a challenge no one will accept. So how should one, I mean, for like a dront like myself, working social media is like something I'm scared of. But can you please share with like the best, practical advice? Which social media should you work with? How often should you update? With what kinds of materials? I'm just kind of turning to Tiffany to begin with here because you seem like the social media expert.
The best for last.
So help the bands.
The thing is that I understand it's overwhelming because there are so many platforms, so much content to produce, and in the first place, if your artist is not because you wanted to be community manager. So I would say one very practical advice is that the more, don't fear it, the more you try, the more it will become natural. And yeah, it's such a vast topic. There are so many things to cover, but maybe something that can help is also try to add a bit of planning to it. So, for example, have a look at the profiles in your scene that work well, what your audience seems to like, and so start by checking that for ideas of content. Then you can start to plan, let's say for the next 30 days, I want to post this number of time and I want to post this kind of content. Okay, then that means I will have to use those moments in my calendar, let's say shows, let's say being at the studio, let's say all those opportunities to shoot content in advance. So if you plan that, then when you get to those critical moments like being at the studio or being doing a show, you know that you have this to record, and so you don't forget, or you don't get into a show and you don't know what to film. I think this mental exercise of planning really helps. And you can shoot content in batch as well, so you don't have to always shoot content on the run, but really you plan, you record a lot of content, so this is done and you have your bank of content for a while. And if you don't know how to do it yourself, you can try to get help, from community managers or content creators or videographers, or don't get stuck if you want help in the first place. I know that, for example, for some campaigns at Nuclear Blast, we use a portion of the marketing budget to hire a community manager for some bands during the campaign to help them shoot all the content, because we find it so critical that it's money better spent here than, for example, magazine pages. Because when you see that, for example, in Germany, magazines represent 5% of music discovery, and YouTube 60%, or Instagram 50%, or you make the trade-off. And then the choice of platforms. That also depends of your audience. That also depends of the connection you want to create with them. I would say that giving a go on TikTok already now is a good thing to try to get used to it. In any case, and also having some closer platforms like Discord or Reddit are also an alternative to those bigger platforms. But that will require more time, I guess. Sorry, that was long.
What would you like to add?
It's a very vast topic. I mean, as you said, like there are so many things to say about. But also, I mean, don't be afraid. And you have to when you start a band, and as you said, you have to realize if you don't want to play this game and you want to, have your social media profiles and be active on social media, if you think like that's something you can't do, be prepared that you will get stuck at a certain level. If you want to get over that threshold, you just have. I mean, it's just like a way to reach out to people, like being seen by people, being seen by people in the industry, discovered, and like. Within the band, like not everyone needs to do that, but make sure you know and you talk about like who is doing what. Like, all right, you're doing it. Like whenever we go on the road, whenever we go in the studio, like you shoot like videos, you shoot photos. That guy is posting it. If you don't want to post every day, or if it's becoming too. Like use tools that you can schedule. You can do it within Meta. You can use external websites that will help you schedule posts, so you don't have to do it all the time. But still, also think about community management. Interact with the people that are reacting. If you're just like posting it and leaving there, and you're not really active on it and interacting with people, it will help you way more if you do so. Don't. Just as you said, like TikTok, even if you're, and I wouldn't even limit that to a specific genre, because just like there are so many people and so many users on this app, and it's not only about, like you have to be funny, you have to dance, you have to whatever. It's like, it's for everyone and it's for everything. And if you just
a
be
really
natural.
Quick question: how big is TikTok with adults in over teenagers?
For example, in Germany, I think it's 33% of the metal people who say they listen to metal, so metalheads that use it weekly at least, and it almost doubled in just 2 years. So it's really the one that grows the fastest.
Okay, or continue.
Just. And think about what you're doing. Maybe have a strategy. Maybe have someone who can help you with developing ideas. But also don't be afraid. Look at other profiles. Look at what other bands that you like are doing. I don't know. Just if you feel comfortable with it, you should post it. If you don't feel comfortable with it, don't do it. So don't try to be someone else, but don't try to like, is that cool? Should I really post that? If you're comfortable with, do it, because it's the identity of your band that you're showcasing on social media.
Do you have anything to add, or should we open to for the audience?
I think the only thing that I would like to add, because I agree with everything that's been said, obviously know at what platform your audience is hanging out, your demographic. I think from a live perspective, I can add that the one thing have in mind when you're not only have a plan for when you are posting, but also have in mind what you are posting for. So I have seen, for example, that when a tour starts, so we monitor the ticket sales leading up to the tour, and then when the tour starts, if the band is very active on social media while on tour, you can see that the ticket sales do increase while they're on tour if they post tour stuff. So don't promote or don't focus on the new album or the new song, focus on the live experience. And when you are focusing on that, also make sure that you focus on the audience, because that's what you're trying to sell. You're not trying to sell your show in that moment. You're trying to sell to the audience that this could be them, so show the people that are having fun at the show, because you ultimately want the person to look at it and go like, hey, I want to do this. I want that to be me. I want to have that much fun on my Friday night. So also have a plan on what you are posting for, and not just, content for the sake of it. And I would definitely stress what Bart said, that do what feels natural for you, because it also has to be sustainable. And if it's something that you just do because it worked so well for this band, first of all, I think social media is very big on, finding out and pointing out the copycat and being like, you just did this because and then tagging the person who did first. So don't try to copy, but find your version of the trends and what's going on social media. Come up with your own stuff, and do what is natural for your band, because that's the only way it's going to be sustainable.
Do you have any good examples of bands that have been really successful with working well with social media?
Well, I can only refer back to Our Promise. They've done an insanely good job.
Any other examples?
I wonder how Pentagram is doing nowadays.
Well, let me tell you, I saw Pentagram on Saturday.
Okay.
And he actually talked. You can explain what happened. Pentagram, the singer of Pentagram,
Doom
Bobby
band
Liebling, became a meme on TikTok. So my children knows about Bobby Liebling now, which I really didn't know that they knew about. But he actually spoke about that on stage. Well, obviously I've become viral now.
If I can give an example that is not about virality, but is about something natural for a band, I can talk about Vatain. So it's not the band that you would imagine being very active on socials, but when we worked on the last campaign album, it was for the 25th anniversary. We had that idea of looking at archives and posting each day a picture or several pictures of a given year. So for 25 days, we posted each year leading up to the show, the 25th anniversary show, which was also the day when we were releasing a live album. It was quite a lot of planning to find what we would be posting each day and what mattered each year. But when we did that, the daily following doubled and tripled for the 25 days, because it just resonated so much with the audience, because they love old stuff, old picture, like just raw material. So again, this is just about finding the content that will engage your audience, really.
I think one good example for a band that does it really well on social media is Ghost.
Yes, I was thinking about them.
I think first of all, that's one thing, is like find your format on posts. So every post starts with message from the clergy. So, and I think that's one way of, creating a community, and always is recognizable as soon as you see that. And also the way it is spelled and the way it's written, you immediately know, oh, this is a Ghost post. And now that they're on tour, they're doing exactly what I was referring to earlier. They have one person on tour who's only interviewing the audience.
And not only just one person, it's
No.
Vanessa Warwick, who's a legendary presenter for Headbangers Ball, which was on MTV.
Yes.
And now it's GTV and Gulbangers Ball. It's such a genius move.
It's a genius move, but
But
it's
maybe
something
for
that's
the
maybe a little
adults.
inaccessible.
Maybe for us adults.
in the beginning, yeah.
But she focuses on the fandom, which
Yeah.
is become.
But yeah, having
crazy.
having a celebrity is not obviously it's super cool and it definitely adds to it. But in the beginning, you know what's realistically possible. You can't really. I don't think that's something. You
But
could
it's
be
still very
aiming for.
smart.
It is very smart, yeah, for sure. They're doing a lot of smart things, but I think in terms of like what is accessible at a lower level is also focus on your audience and also show the community that your fans have, because ultimately I think that's what humans want. They want to be part of a community. So when you see the ghost community, the fans, you want to be there and you want to experience that. You want the energy that comes across really well. And I mean, I haven't really paid attention to it specifically, but I think they're currently only posting these audience shots, so that just goes to show they are promoting the tour right now. They're doing exactly the causing this fear of missing out. Like everybody wants to be there, everybody wants to have that chance to see the show, and also I think a lot of people want to have the chance of being in one of those, with the dress ups and everything, or dressing up as Jesus, being interviewed possibly and stuff. So I think there's also this, you want to be a part of the virality.
Yeah, and like even on a smaller scale, and also because you mentioned something important is that younger audience more connects to like a track than like maybe the artist itself. But if you're on social media and you need to try and lure in those people and make them be part of, not of your band, but part of the whole thing, and interact with those people, not only community management, but also try and be interactive. I mean, again, it comes down like if you're a band like Matane, you probably won't post like, "Hey, how was your Sunday? Horns up," stuff like that. But you can still like try and get them involved by like, "Hey, tell us about like your favorite show, whatever you've seen us, or when was the first time you've seen us as a band." Like make something that, people can connect with, can interact with, and can just like try and build that community feeling, even though you don't have maybe a famous presenter doing that for you on tour.
So, audience, is there any questions for the panel of experts? Be courageous. No question is dumb. In the back. Did you hear support from Goethe Institute or from the government? Do you apply for grants to get bands to come?
There is the Eurosonic example.
Yeah, no, we don't apply for anything.
Well, can you? Or you just don't?
I mean, the bands apply, like a Swedish band applies at Jasper, and then but we don't apply for.
But there is this example for the Dutch showcase.
Yeah, but we're not part of that anymore because they only had.
Still, there is an example.
There is an example, yes.
Yeah, but getting onto that showcase is really difficult.
No, but the thing is, I mean, I think there are more local. So whatever, if you're a band from Sweden, you probably get money from the Swedish government, or there are ways to get
but I
funded
think
by the
you were
Swedish
asking
government.
how it works in Germany.
Yeah. So, I mean, usually, what's the aim of every export agency is like to get your country out into the world.
Yeah.
We're not getting money that we bring in foreign bands, but we get money if we send also bands to other territories. I mean, that's how it usually works, and not the other way around. At least I'm not aware of anything that.
Yeah.
I understood that either.
Yes. Är det någon mer? In the front?
you mentioned something about starting off with local scenes.
Mhm.
Do you have any recommendations for, and we're talking 13, 14-year-olds here, just so you know, like very young. Do you have any recommendations on scenes here, perhaps even in the Stockholm area, which would be a good place for them to start off? Anywhere, like, you know of?
I think maybe that's maybe more a question for Export Music Sweden. But
You mentioned that you were monitoring some, but maybe that's...
oh, you meant with the showcases and things. I think when you were talking about building a local scene, is trying to get gigs, maybe at youth clubs,
Yeah.
building
Yes.
an
Yes.
audience, getting word of mouth.
Yeah, exactly. Or I mean, what's the club that?
Fredagsmangel.
Yes. I
Yeah,
mean,
in
if-
Jakobsberg. It's a really good club. I'm guessing that this is a metal band these youngsters are playing. That is one of Café 44. Sometimes books bands. It's a punk place, but they sometimes have metal gigs as well. Nemis, definitely. And I'm guessing, are they connected to a studieförbund? ABF has loads of, and Studiefrämjandet still has some gigs, some sort of. So I'm guessing from what you said, try to build a fan base here, get the word around, maybe start playing maybe in other cities, and then start marketing towards Germany on social media.
Yeah, and connect yourself with other bands.
Yeah.
You know, go to their shows, talk to them after the show, and then you get to know them, and then ask them, hey, can you set up a show in wherever, Uppsala or...
Exactly, and it's just like, yeah, you have to start within your local scene. I think that's important. And yeah, I mean, if you're in a band, you're a fan, you probably end up at one of those small underground gigs anyway. And then yeah, just try to connect with those bands there. And it's very easy because none of them, if you go to like a small show in youth clubs or stuff like that, it's not like that they're hiding themselves in the backstage area where you can't talk to them.
No.
So, but they're usually at the merch, or you see them before the show or after, whatever.
And I think the scene should not be limited only to music. So I mean, I don't know what style or anything. I don't have details about what they play, but I think that something to consider is also the scene in general. So what are the interests of the people who might be listening to you musically, of course, like what other bands are they listening, but also do they like gaming, do they like reading a certain type of books, do they cosplay, so you know, trying to have a picture of what those interests are, because then you also know where to find those people, who to target, and what type of content to make. Because if, let's say, your band is also they are big fans of World of Warcraft, maybe then you will shoot content with them playing World of Warcraft, and this content will resonate with other World of Warcraft, and so on and so on. So don't just limit the scene to just music, I would say.
Har vi något? Här har vi en där borta.
Third question, so how long do you think in a career of now would you say you benefit from being on a bigger label? Like should it be like 2010 or like
So at what stage do you think it's beneficial to change from a smaller label to a bigger label, like 2 albums in, or does it go, I mean, can you even say generally?
No,
because
you
because
can't
you
think
did
so.
say that you know,
mean,
need to sign stuff
sure.
that are more professional.
Well, I mean, yes, and I mean, I just recently signed a band that hasn't released an album yet. They only released a few singles, but you can already tell they have a vision of their band and they are kind of ready to make the next step. But sometimes bands just need like to figure out like what exactly they want to do. Need to figure out their aesthetics and what they actually want. Then it might be easier if you do that on your own or on a smaller label. But yeah, it's hard to tell, to give you like a number. Okay, it should be 2 or 3, because again, like whatever, like bands like the Black Dahlia Murder, Whitechapel, Cannibal Corpse, all those bands we worked with from the very beginning, from the first album on it, and still do like 25, 30 years later. But then sometimes you have bands that come to your label and have already 5 records in. It's more about like at what level is your band, and is the band, are you 100% sure this is the best iteration of the band and this is exactly what we wanna do, and the band is ready now, so then it might be a good chance. Maybe it doesn't work out because again, it comes down to the music, and music is also something very subjective. Maybe I just don't like it, but you're still a good band, you know.
Yeah, I would agree. It's very individual, and also I think one problem in the industry is still that it's very easy to get blinded by, oh, it's a bigger label. I think don't just look at what your band does and what, don't just look at that, but also look at the smaller label that you're on. Are they still supporting you really well? Are they still is the band still growing? I think the step towards a bigger label is only really necessary when you feel like the label that we're with now isn't helping us grow anymore. They've hit the ceiling for what they can do, and then it's the right step. But before that, I think one thing that is very underestimated is being a bigger fish in a small pond.
Yeah.
Because if you're a small band and then you're competing, it's exactly what I said earlier, you want to release your album, but then, I don't know, Amon Amarth are releasing it the same week, then, the priority on the label is going to be very low. Whereas if you have a smaller label taking really good care of you, and you can see that your growth is still steadily going up, then I don't think it should be underestimated what smaller labels can do.
No.
Där borta? Okay, I'll repeat that question. How important is it for a booker of any kind, A&R, agency, festival, to like the band personally, or can you make such a decision just because you see the commercial value?
I do that all the time. I think if I look at my roster, I think in the beginning especially I got a lot of those questions that people were asking. So you must be a big fan of that band. It's like, no, not at all. If I would actually listen to the bands that I have on my roster right now, I would have a very weird musical taste, basically all over the place. For me, it's not important whether I like it personally, because I don't have to listen to it all the time. I just have to sell it. For me, it's important that I have an idea of what I can do with that band. Do I feel comfortable in that space of the genre? Do I know the right festivals? Do I know how to grow the band? What other bands should they be going on tour with? Do I understand how the marketing works for them? Like, for example, if I have absolutely no clue about social media or something, I'm probably not very good working with more modern bands that have to work with that space a lot. So I think it's more of a business decision, but also in terms of like for yourself, like do you feel at home in that space, and what do you feel you can do for that band? I have had bands applying where it's like, oh, this sounds great, but I have no idea where to go with this. I don't know what bands to send you on tour with. I have no vision for what festivals you could be playing or how this could look on a stage. Then I don't touch it. I think for me, sometimes it's even a downside if I like it personally, because sometimes I feel like, okay, I might be a little biased. Like, I really like this. Like, why is nobody else liking it? So I think if it's something that I'm not a huge fan of myself, I have a more objective view on what could work better for the band.
Would you guys agree?
No, I would answer completely different to that. I really have to like it. I have to be behind it. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it. And that goes for us as a company in general. So, but the thing is, of course, we have like my taste in music is kind of very. So it's not only I only like one or two genres. It's like I like more than that. But and maybe my colleague in the US likes something completely different. But the one, especially working close to the band, if he's not into it and championing the band, we're walking away from it. It
Okay,
doesn't
but
matter.
that's not what I said. I'm also behind it and behind the music
No,
and championing the band. I have to be convinced of it, but it doesn't mean I worked for a long time. I worked with a Swedish adventure power metal band called Twilight Force. Personally, I don't sit at home and listen. I don't cosplay and listen to the music, but they got me excited about their idea. They have so great, like they have such a good vision and it has so much potential. I was excited about that. I don't need to personally like the music or champion the music. I'm not going to tell people, oh, this is the greatest album I have ever heard. I might still say this is the greatest album in that space at the moment, and they have the best lyrical concept or whatever. I'm definitely behind. I have to be behind it. I have to be convinced of it. But I don't have to listen. I don't have to sit at home and listen to it personally all the time.
No, and I didn't want to say that you're
Okay,
not
good.
behind it. It's like, that wasn't. But it's just like for me, the music. I'm definitely all about the music, even though I have like a vision for the band. But if I don't like it, I don't want to work with it. Because what brought me into the scene and what brought me into the music business is that I want to push bands and like bring bands to out in the world is stuff that I love and that I musically like. So that's just like a very personal thing to me. And
That's gatekeeping.
is it though?
Yeah, it is. Because you're only pushing what you personally like.
Yeah.
But that's exactly what was being done with the gatekeeping. For me, that's a very biased way of working. I'm not saying it's wrong or anything. Obviously, if you like something, you're probably better at selling it. I don't have to like the music. I have to like the idea of what you have behind it. But because I'm not exposed to it all the time, like there's very few bands that I listen to that are on my roster in a like on my personal time. Let's put it like that. But I think. If I think it's worth bringing out there for whatever reason,
Definitely.
then
Yes.
it should be. I think I shouldn't. I think I should not support something because it's not my personal taste.
Yes.
If I think it's something that could be cool and that could create a community and support the scene, then it shouldn't be down to my personal taste.
Definitely. Last question, the man in the back.
Stand up so you hear me. So a lot of the discussions today have been, I guess, about heavy metal and all sorts. How well does everything you've said apply to the AOR and classic rock genre?
That was said so loudly that I don't need to repeat. Thank you.
Yeah, it's all good.
Okay.
I would have prepared data about classic rock if I knew. So how to say again? It's a matter of scenes. So I think that applies. That know your scene, know what they like, their habits, and so on. That applies to any genre. I would say, at least.
Yeah, and then I mean, talking about like more classic rock or hard rock, it's also different if it's whatever. If we're talking about an old band like YNT or whatever is Blue Oyster Cult or a band like Heat, I mean, completely different audience and completely, even though like they both more on the hard rock side than on the metal side. Yeah, it's like know your audience, like where.
Yeah, I think I would agree. I think it's not that foreign from the metal scene, so it definitely works kind of in the similar way. The key factor to any genre and any music is know who your audience is and know how to reach them. It doesn't matter whether you play metal or you play pop or whatever. You need to, you need to reach who they are. You need to know who they are and how to reach them. That's basically it.
Thank you so much, Chris, Merle, Bart, and Tiffany, and thank you to the audience for listening.
Thank you.